All right. So, yeah, I think last few weeks that we've talked, they've been the 13 seed. They finish above Minnesota as the 12th seed, and they will be hosting Minnesota here in the Big Ten tournament in Indianapolis. Um, they flew out today, apparently. Um, yeah, I guess that makes sense. Have a few days there. So they'll play Minnesota on March 5th. I don't 3:30 p.m. Is that
12:30,
Eastern?
12:30 Pacific.
Oh, noon. Okay.
Damn it, I'll be in
Irritating time for us.
class.
I know. I know.
Surely
Ugh.
you're
Always been through the
I'm gonna have to like watch it in my 11-person history seminar.
11 people canceled the
Yeah,
class.
it's a senior seminar. It's like it's supposed to be
Professor,
small. There's like
we
one
have
tiny table.
Professor, we have an important game to watch. Can we just all huddle around and um yeah, so they'll play Minnesota. That'll be interesting again just because of how Washington kind of had a battle back in that one when they played on the road, right? So there's that one that's on Peacock. Oh, I've got to use my Peacock login. That's fine. And so if they win that game, they will play Michigan. And that's a little bit more interesting, right? Because when they played Michigan on that purely Michigan team's road trip, did not go so well. They lost 69-82 back on January 15th, a Wednesday, another Wednesday. That game, by the way, would be on Thursday. Yeah, so it's just all the next day, one after another. Got it. Um, God, the Michigan game feels like so long ago. Jesus. Let me see. Um, ooh, God. Okay, yeah. The poor starts is a theme in a lot of these games. Like outscored 17. Nope. Both wrong. 19-7 in the first quarter. Nice bounce back, but still trailing at half and never really just had the jump that they needed to pull ahead of the Wolverines, and they lost that one. So tough one there. I mean, Savia dropped 30. Your top three scores, I mean, are pretty solid. You get 30 from Savia, 16 from Hannah Steins, 15 from L. Um, but yeah, really quiet day from Delia. That's unusual. Don't like that. Um,
needed. Probably. I mean, you have to have something happening in the post.
yeah.
Want to win.
So that could be interesting there. Um, God, we got Shayla Gilmer minutes in that one. That's wild. Sorry, I keep looking back at this Minnesota game. Yeah. So if
Was
they are
Delia in
able,
foul trouble?
oh, I can go back and look.
Like it
You said
must have
Minnesota, it
been.
was Michigan. But
Hmm?
you said Minnesota, it was Michigan.
Was I saying Minnesota?
You did.
Jesus Christ, I'm all over the place today.
Yeah, I feel like it's I
Savia
like
was in foul trouble.
Of
well
course.
that's not unusual, but I feel like we only
Three
get Shayla
fouls for
minutes.
Delia.
Huh.
2 for 7 shooting, 5 boards, 4 turnovers, 2 blocks, 1 steal. Um, Nobody else. No bench points besides 2 Tegan Brown bench points. Um, 13 turnovers. But Michigan had 15. Yeah. Um, so yeah, if they are able to get past that team, they would play Maryland, and they played Maryland pretty decently. So I don't know. It's interesting. I don't think they need to win the whole damn thing. Um, I keep trying to get ahead to March. Before I get there, Bella, I'll go to you, and then Rowan can finish out before we get into the March. But just thoughts on this Big Ten tournament, whether it is the fact that they'll be playing Minnesota and they've got another M team lined up for them after that. I won't say Minnesota again, Rowan. I'm sorry. Um, or just what they need to do in this tournament. How do you feel about the Big Ten tournament? How do you feel about them going into it, considering the win streak? Tell you.
I mean, I definitely feel better because they're on a win streak. However, there's also the part of me that's like every tournament they've been in for the past couple of years, they have lost in the very first game. Like even when they played Georgetown in the WNIT, they lost that game at home. And Georgetown's not a bad team. I'm a big Kelsey Ransom fan, but it will be interesting to see if the lessons carry through to like one and done games. I think there's definitely something different about playing in a postseason tournament compared to the regular season. I have high hopes that they can beat Minnesota because they did just beat Minnesota, but I also think Minnesota will have some extra motivation and some recent film to look at. Um, I think as long as they don't lose the very first game, that they have a pretty strong position to get into the NCAA tournament. I don't think they need to make a run to the final to make the tournament, but what they have to watch out for is other teams in power, I guess it's now Power Four conferences, um, that may make those runs and then find themselves in the NCAA tournament because they made those runs. So it's not like Washington's position is set because there are other strong teams that could use the conference tournament to make runs and overcome them. But I do think that the 4 game winning streak put them in a very, very good position. And I think and hope that they are feeling confident, that they, take some of that road win juju that they had going on. Because they had struggled on the road before. So to see them win at Nebraska and then Minnesota, um, I definitely think there's a good chance that they could at the very least win the first game, if not, maybe win the second game. Um, because I would like to see them make a little bit of a run. I think they're very capable of it. I think they have the talent, and it'll be a question of whether or not they can put it together in one and done games. And the other concern I have is that the games are back to back to back to back. And we know that the starters play heavy minutes. And, I had asked Elle Ledeen about it, and she talked about like the great nutritionists that they have and the whole team they have to make them, be performing at their best. But no matter how in shape you are, it is tough to play 35 minutes a game day after day after day. So how that pans out for them, whether Tina will try and use more of the bench in the first game, I have no clue, but I think that's probably my biggest concern if they do get past Minnesota is how much energy will they have left for the next day.
That's a really good point. I mean, they we know that, if we look at it's great to play a team that you have just, successfully beat, but like you said, that also means that those teams aren't going in blind because they know that they just played you. And maybe there were adjustments that Minnesota made that now they know even more so what adjustments they need to make because they've had time to think about it. And that is a big problem. But with that, I mean, we know that they also, um, I completely just lost my train of thought. So I'll think about that. But I was gonna say something about the bench, but now I can't remember. Oh, I guess, I mean, this whole time while you've been talking, I've also been looking at Michigan, which I shouldn't get ahead of myself, but I
Yeah.
do think it's interesting because, I think you covered everything that I was also thinking with Minnesota. Here comes my train of thought back again. Covered everything I was thinking with Minnesota with, right. Tired. That's the thing about March. The tournament is rough. And I think too, we talked a couple weeks ago about our concern about bench minutes and, happy to say that we've seen improvement there. We have, Brenna's minutes are great, Devin's minutes are great, but I agree it's not enough. And Brenna's role right now is to fill in to give Delia a rest, and that is going to be something that I don't see that role expanding much from that. And if it does, it would have been something that we probably would have seen a little bit earlier. So I think again, don't want to jinx it by looking forward to Michigan, but I do think that it it isn't something, it's definitely a game that is a little bit, it definitely would not be in the bag by any means. I think it would be a really competitive game, but I think that that is a bit of an advantage. We've been talking about how UW is peaking right now, and if they haven't played them since January, a lot has changed in that time. I also think they've had, I guess I can't say that they've had an easier end to their season. Michigan has, but they also just lost to Iowa, who has been just kind of came out of nowhere with, that was a horrible loss that UW
They're
had to them.
they're also pulling off the most random upsets. Like the
So true.
only team to beat USC.
Yeah, super weird. But for the most part, I mean, they played Penn State a few games ago. That was a honestly, they only won by 10 points. So anyway, saying that to say that I think that I feel pretty confident about I feel decently confident about the Minnesota game in a way that I wasn't before they played that Minnesota game before. I maybe I'm being overconfident, but I feel like they can definitely make it to Michigan. And if they make it to Michigan, I think that they have a really decent shot of winning. But I do think that that is a really big role. Just it's not only the matchups that you have, it's also how deep your bench is, how tired you are. And I think thinking about that, when they lost to Michigan, like I was just saying, I think Delia not having a good game is a good part of that. I think that, UW struggles when they can't have some help in the paint there if Delia is having an off game. And especially in the looking past the Big Ten tournament, you're going to need Delia to be ready to go because really she's their only post threat. And so that's going to be huge for her to hopefully be able to to withstand that many minutes so close together. So that is really a bit of a concern.
Yeah, I'm interested with the bench because it feels like so often they just don't get much of a kick at all scoring wise from them, right? Um, and not to feed into my narrative, but maybe this is when Devin Coppinger pops out and, don't know,
She's
like,
been great. I don't think anyone mentioned her six off the bench in Minnesota. That was
mm,
big.
And she
um,
played 24 minutes against Oregon. And even though she didn't necessarily score a lot, I think her defense has been very impactful. Like the thing is, I don't think Washington always gets the scoring punch from their bench, but they do get like a defensive uptick.
yes.
Like when
Yeah.
Tegan Brown comes in, Devin Coppinger
Yeah.
comes in, even Brennan McDonald, like they put energy into their defense
Yeah.
and they are like, I don't know how long I'm gonna be in the game. I'm gonna lock them the fuck down. And that was another thing I wanted to say when you were talking about Chloe Briggs. I've been impressed with her defensive energy. Like maybe it's because she takes fewer shots. Like she knows that's what she needs to put her energy into. But like the reality of this team is that like while they're very capable scorers, they they want to rely on defense. They want their defense to create their offense, and they want to be one of the best defensive teams that there is. So even if they're getting defensive punches from their bench, I'm not too mad about that because they're getting something. Like they're getting energy. It's not like the players are coming in and immediately being beaten. They are, even if they're not scoring, hopefully they're preventing the other team from scoring. And I think that's sort of almost the biggest thing you can get out of them. But like even, against Oregon, 10 bench points again is like more than we've seen in plenty of other games. So I think as long as they're playing good defense and then getting at least around 10 bench points, I think they've got a really solid chance of beating just about anybody.
Agreed.
Yeah, I'm Tegan Brett is the name I think about a lot as well off the bench. Like, I'm not gonna call, it like even going back further to talking about this team and kind of about Chloe Briggs, I feel like Tegan Brown had more minutes earlier in the season, right? I feel like we saw more of a Tegan Brown presence early into the year. And, the Tegan, like a lot of those bench players in a Tegan Brown, in a, well, she used to be a bench player in Chloe Briggs. Um, like I've said on this show before, I'm really excited for next season as well and the program going forward because like you'll have, Hannah Steins and Eldadine as your senior leaders in a lot of ways next year, right? Devin Coppinger is learning a lot as a freshman. Tegan Brown is also a junior. Jesus Christ. Okay. Sorry. My timetable's off. So yeah, she'll come in. Chloe Briggs is a sophomore. She'll learn a lot from this season, especially getting a lot of starts. Um, that's I think that's valuable to have that. Um, and this tournament sort of experience, hopefully two tournaments, can really be valuable for this group of players. When again, you will have one of the top ranked recruiting classes coming in next year. They'll have to go their first time through a Big Ten schedule and deal with the away sides and the travel. I know that Tina Langley and UW was a little frustrated with how the schedule worked out in some ways, and they'll submit their comments to the conference after the season, or they've already done that. Um, they'll have to go through that, and they'll have these players to lean on, whether that is off the court or on the court. So, um, yeah, to go for some feelings of hope for the organization going forward to now feelings of strong general feelings about March.
Hey, Charles.
Hey, Jen.
Hey, how about them Huskies?
Ooh, purple and gold, baby.
Yeah. When are you going to watch all those away games, though?
All those away games. There are a lot of them, and I was hoping to come to Rough and Tumble because this is the home of Circling Saddle Sports. If that's okay with you.
I think that's a great idea. Hope to see you all here.